kind of showed you how to troubleshoot something like that. And we were able to kind of troubleshoot it by coming into our project, going into our theme, which is where all the compiling happens, and we came into resources, assets, styles, which is where all the CSS comes from. Leaf is like a bonsai specific folder, and pretty much it's the only folder I use, so I was pretty aware that it was going to be coming through here. And then actually we started in the main. I commented this out first, then we were able to realize that it was in there. So by coming into this file, we basically had, these are all the assets that it could have been, and we were able to narrow it down to being in this forms folder. So if I come into components, forms, you'll see something that looks a little different than everything else. Even if you're not super familiar with SCSS, these are just class extensions, so those are nothing weird or fancy, but just the way that I've organized this code, I've never really done it this way before, and you'll see what I mean. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Now that I think of it, this is probably not the way to be organizing it. I liked how clean it was, but yeah, actually this would be repeating it for all of these inputs within each individual one of these. So we're going to try and optimize this bit of code just a little bit. One way I could do it is by basically taking all of the 1 underscores, putting them under form 1, taking all of the 2 underscores, putting them under gform 2. I think that's how it'd be organized, but probably the quickest way of doing this would be to see what the SCSS output, what the CSS output looks like. And I know there's a way to do this within terminal. It'll automatically output the CSS, but maybe a visual way, an easier way of doing this is we'll come into CodePen. No, this is a waste of time, because the CSS needs to be pulling it from SCSS. It can't pull an SCSS function from the CSS level that's already outputted. I can think of a way of doing this, but it all pretty much involves grabbing the outputted SCSS from this. So I think what I want to do is just save it with this stuff back in it, and then find it in my custom code off something like this, something unique. So let's try that out. This could take a couple minutes to do right now. "56 seconds, that's not so bad." Alright, so we're just gonna come into our local host. Hopefully it doesn't go into that live reload loop that we've been experiencing. Okay, so CSS isn't actually here yet. What I'm gonna do is build it for production. So we'll do yarn run build. No. Yarn run build production, I think. Alrighty. So this styles main file right here, that's what we're looking for. Yeah. That's why it's nice to keep an eye on the output, I guess. Kind of lose track of it when you start working on such a big project. You don't really, there's not really any way you can look at it like on a global level at that point. It's just a bunch of mush. But yeah, I was thinking there might be like 6 of these inputs maybe or something. But there is 1,800 being repeated. So we're not going to be able to take the outputted code to use that. That's completely out of the question. I think what we do is just make this more verbose, and it should actually clean it up, which is kind of weird. But it is repeating these classes for each of these forms, which shouldn't be done. So let's start hacking away, I guess. I'm just gonna sit back and go at it for a little bit. This is gonna take some time. Actually, I just thought of a clean way I could do this, so let's come up here. And we'll give this like a default form extension, yeah. So these, I'm going to separate it out of these, so all of these ones, I'll come here. Okay, and now for, get rid of those, as for 2. I'm not really quite sure what I was thinking when I originally coded it that way, but it's all cleaned up now. I think this should do the trick. Okay, this one can stay in 5. Now we have another from input 1. Input 141 this time. was it, right? Let me just go back and make sure. Yeah. Okay. Just looking for anything that's out of place. We have some container 3 stuff here. Alright, and now this is going to go in each of them. So do we want to create a class for it or just duplicate this? For now, let's just duplicate it. We don't need to get too fancy, we just need it to be working properly. Alright. And then Gform 0. I don't know if that's even anything, so let's just remove that for now. And now we can... .5 seconds. Those are a little weird, but that's okay for now. The good thing is we have everything working. And I want to make sure that it's not making like tons of duplicates like it was doing, so let's yarn build production. We'll give that some time to compile, then we'll go inspect the minified code and see how much more optimized it is now. Okay. Let's see, what was it called? Okay, so let's take this, for example. You know, this one's even more unique. Let's see how many we can find. I'm gonna drop it into, I guess I can just search here. There's 166. So Clearly I'm still not doing that right, I don't think. Something's gotta be redundant. The thing is, like, since these are unique, I don't really have to wrap them inside of the form. I usually just do that so that I can see more easily which form it's all from. But technically, oops. Technically I could put these right here. Let's see how that does. Okay, I'm gonna build that again, and then we'll see if we still have 166 of those. Because if we look at form 3, for example, we're doing this default form extension right here, and then a couple extensions on reader text right here, but the one that had 166 of them, it was just for the default form extension. If I look at that, who knows? Maybe that is the right amount that should come out of that, because I know Bootstrap does a lot of stuff on the back end with like form control and like default. I can tell you there's only one line of code in this one, and I think there's only a couple of lines in each of these maybe. So maybe that is how it's supposed to be. I forget what's all in form control, but let's give this a second to compile and we'll see if we can optimize it some more. Okay. Okay, there's 166 in this one. $114 in this one. We're getting somewhere. Okay, let's see how long it's taking to compile now. .4 seconds. Okay, and let me just test that again for couple of different times to average it out. .4 seconds. That is much better. Let's try that again. 5 seconds. Cool. So that's getting pretty good. Let's come back out. Just to see how much this forms is adding. . looks like I have some more forms in this courses part right here, which I would probably eventually make its own forms file for Sensei, but this should work now. So 3.7. So that still adds a ton of not a ton of time, but it adds about a second to the entire process. I think we could optimize it later some more. Let's see what it's like without this part right here, because this part could also be slowing it down quite a bit. We'll come back into main. Common forms. Yeah, so it's just forms that's adding a lot of this time. Since we did kind of clean this up a little bit, let's come into, grab this extension under Sensei courses. This can come in here now. All right, that'll do. Don't need that either. Okay, we'll leave that for now. So let's just test that a couple more times. As long as our build is like 5 seconds, I'm happy. We could definitely trim it down if we want to do some more optimization, but we started with about 50 seconds, or when I was streaming it was about 100 seconds. So we've really done well so far. My goal would be around 2 or 3 seconds though. So with that being done, now I can move on to continue doing design. That's really the biggest pain in the ass of this build, is if you're not keeping it optimized, you can't really design as you code so well. If you're keeping that build time optimized, then it's like instant, basically. Sometimes it'll help to pull things up in the browser, and I like to, for like real-time designing coding, you can always use the browser dev tools, or like I showed last week when we used CodePen. That's another good way, but those also have their disadvantages. So I think as long as everything's working great, like this is the best system for basically designing and coding on the fly. So with that said, I'll have another video coming out soon. See you guys around.